Today we're working on a 2002 Ford Taurus 3.0 V6, and as you probably heard as I pulled the car in, there was a miss. So I hooked up the diagnostic tool. I'll put the screen on display here, but we've got a P0303, which is cylinder 3 misfire. So I dug a little deeper into the live data, and you can see here on the screen as well, there is a fault on the number 3 fuel injector. So we're going to go ahead and change that fuel injector. And for those of you who might not know, I'll show you where that fuel injector is located. So the firing order on these is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll put the firing order on the screen. I believe that's correct. But anyway, so right back in here is where the number 3 cylinder fuel injector is. So we're going to have to take this apart, and in order to get to that fuel injector, one thing we want to do is pull the fuel pump relay, and that is this one right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull this, and then we're going to crank it, and what we're trying to do is get the fuel pressure off the fuel rail so that we don't have to worry about fuel spraying when we actually go to pull the injector. Alright, so now we're going to crank the car. It shouldn't start, and we're relieving the fuel pressure off of the fuel rail. Alright, that's exactly what we wanted. It did start just a little bit, and that got the fuel out of the fuel rail. So at this point there's no more pressure on the fuel rail. We can go ahead and start tearing stuff apart. It's a good practice to go ahead and disconnect the negative battery cable. This is the first time I've done this job on this car, but it looks like we're going to start with releasing the air box. We're going to unplug the mass airflow sensor. We will pull this hose clamp off. We'll disconnect this. We'll get this out of the way, and then see what the next step is. Alright, so the next thing we can do is loosen the bolts that hold the intake, the upper intake manifold on. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, at this point the intake should be free, but as you can see right here, that needs to come off, and then there's another one on the back side. I'll show you that as we're trying to get that pushed off there. Let's take a look at the other one. And so here's the other one right here. looks like we've got another one right here. Okay, so I think at this point all that's still connected is the throttle body and the linkages there, so hopefully we can just lift this up and get it out of the way. Alright, I found another bolt right here under the throttle body, so we'll pull that out. Well, right now what I'm doing is taking the bolts out that hold the EGR to the intake. Thinking that that's also holding us up. It's the only other thing I can see. So here is the EGR, and it mounts to the intake back here with two bolts. It's really hard to show you at this point, but one goes right here, and then one goes on this other side. We'll see better when I get this out of the way, but right now where I took this nut off the stud, there is a 13mm bolt right here. We're going to take that off to free this up, and then we should be able to move the intake and the throttle body out of the way. Alright, so the intake should be free at this point. Hopefully we can get it set out of the way. So I'm going to grab a bungee cord and just hold this up out of our way. We're coming here for this fuel injector right here. Alright, so now we just need to find the bolts to get the fuel rail loose. And it appears that we've got one right here, one right here, and then one here and one here. Also 5/16 or 8mm. So to get this front one here, I guess it'd be the left one, I used the wobble extension in a shallow socket. And on the other one, the one on the right, I was able just to use the ratchet in this. And on the back, it looks like I'm going to need to use an actual wrench. Once these are broke loose, they're easy to turn out. There may be an easier way, I just don't know what it is. So back here we're up against a wire loom, and that's why I'm using the wrench, because there's not enough depth. And once you get it so far, it's finger tight. One more to go. Alright, that one was a little sticky. So at this point, the fuel rail should be loose, and what we're going to do is we're going to pop the injectors out with the fuel rail, and hopefully all that goes smooth. I think we're going to go ahead and unhook each injector. The injectors act like they wouldn't come out, so we're just going to give a little tug on the back fuel rail. Alright, so we got the top of the fuel rail off, and it's time to get that third injector out. I don't know if this means anything, but here we go. You can take a look at it. And we'll take a look at the new fuel injector, which, by the way, the link is in the description below. Is a standard motor products. When OE fails, trust standard. Just take a quick look here. They look the same. Same connector. Fresh O-rings. It's going to make it a little more difficult to get put back in place, but I'm going to put a little bit of oil just on the O-rings so that it's a little easier to snap into place. Well, lubrication there. So at this point, I'm seeing that we didn't have to pull the bolts on the front fuel rail. Just the back would have been fine. Alright, looks like we can start putting the bolts back. I'll go ahead and plug everything in and make sure there's plenty of clearance to get all the plugs back in. So we're just plugging everything in, putting bolts back in. Alright, so what I want to do now is put the fuel pump relay back in, turn the key on, and just make sure we don't have any leaks on that injector or any of the injectors. So I'm going to zoom in, and then hopefully you all can tell me if we have any leaks. Looks like we got a leak. Good thing we didn't put it back together. Alright, let's try again. See what we got. Okay, don't want to play nice. Alright, so I just tested it again after I tapped it basically one more time. I loosened the bolt, tapped it one more time, and tightened the bolt, checked it, and we're good now. So now I'm just going to reassemble it, and it'll just be a time lapse, and I'll come back when I'm torquing the intake bolts so that you have that information. I'm also going to clean that mating surface. This is just carbon choke cleaner. Alright, we're going to put the intake back on. Let's do one more test just to verify that there's no leaks on that injector. I didn't see anything. Did you? Alright, put it back together. So just so you can see here, the EGR goes up in the intake right here, and you can see on the bracket there's a hole right here, and then there's a hole on this other side right here. So when I'm on the back side running those screws in, that's what I'm doing. We just want to make sure we get all of our hoses hooked back up, which we're in pretty good shape now. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of snug these, and that way I can tighten this one here under the throttle body. I'll go ahead and get these for the EGR started as well. Alright, time to torque these, and it's pretty important, especially on these plastic intakes. So I'm going to get the torque specs, and get the torque wrench set to the proper specs, and then I'll come right back. Alright, so the best answer I found was 89 inch-pounds, and start from the center and work out. So there's only 4 bolts here, so I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to go here, 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 here. Sorry, I don't have better information than that. That's just what I got. So now we'll go ahead and finish tightening our bolts over here. I just wanted to make sure everything was sitting the way we want it. Alright, here we go. We're going to try to start it for the first time. I have a feeling I might stumble a little bit in the beginning, but I think it'll clear out, and that usually happens, you know, maybe from that carbon choke cleaner. But anyway, let's go ahead and try it. Alright, we have success, so I'm going to go ahead and go in and clean my hands up, pull the car out, and then hook the scanner up to it, check out some live data. I'll show you the status of injector number 3, just so you can see that. Alright, here we are. We're going to start the car and see if we get any information on here. So where we did have a fault on injector 3, it says no fault. If you found this video to be helpful, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. There will be links in the description for the injector miscellaneous tools that makes this job maybe a little bit easier. And appreciate you watching.